According to the Center for Disease Control, the first case of COVID-19 in the United States was diagnosed in the state of Washington on January 20th. The same day, the first case in South Korea was also confirmed. And while these two countries both detected their first cases of COVID-19 on the same day, they took totally different approaches to how they managed it. And the outcomes in the two countries are so different. Comparing the COVID-19 death rates in the two countries as of May 1st, it was 200 deaths per million of the total population in the United States versus 5 deaths per million of the total population in South Korea. South Korea immediately ramped up diagnostic testing, which resulted from rapid collaboration between the government and the private sector and the public's acceptance of a large-scale medical intervention. The United States did not test fast and furious. According to Reuters, South Korea, with a population of 51.5 million, conducted nearly 300,000 tests within 2 months of diagnosing their first COVID-19 patient. In comparison, the US, with a population of 327 million, which is over 6 times larger than South Korea, conducted only 1/5 the number of tests, just 60,000 tests in the same 2 months. Travel restrictions and prohibitions are in place to help stop the spread. But in South Korea, they're testing people upon arrival at the airport. Everyone, including their own citizens, has to be tested right there at the airport and is required to quarantine in designated facilities while adhering to very specific rules until they test negative, not once, but twice. South Korea takes this very seriously. Here's a firsthand account straight from a South Korea quarantine. I have the opportunity today to talk to Mark Govindasamy. He is in South Korea, having tested positive for COVID-19. He does not live in South Korea. He actually was there for a job, a short job that was only supposed to last a few days. And today we're going to hear his story about what he's experiencing with the virus and being in a country like South Korea at a time when there's a pandemic happening around the world. Mark, thank you so much for joining me from South Korea today to talk about your experience. It's great to have you here. How are you feeling?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I feel good. Mentally, I feel fine. Physically, I feel fine. I have no symptoms of the virus despite continually testing positive for it. But yeah, I feel good. I feel good.
So you have no symptoms, you're asymptomatic, but you're carrying it and obviously could infect others, which is why you're finding yourself in quarantine. How did you're from Great Britain and you were traveling for work. Can you give us a little background about what you left behind at home, your family, and how you found yourself traveling to South Korea to begin with?
Yeah, sure. Well, my wife's at home and my kids, the horses and stuff. Yeah, left all those and my friends. Ended up coming to South Korea. I work in predominantly in the offshore wind industry. I work on a lot of high voltage systems, and I came over here to do some work on some of those high voltage systems in a laboratory just outside Seoul somewhere. But obviously with arriving and putting into quarantine, things changed a little quite quickly.
So the minute you arrived in South Korea, because you were coming in from another country, you were automatically put into quarantine, correct?
Yeah, that's right. And that was something I knew about. I knew that was going to happen.
But when that happened, how did it happen? Were you greeted at the airport and told and whisked away, or what was that experience in itself like?
Okay, yeah. So I was pre-warned that I would have to do the quarantine. So on arrival, things at the airport were a lot different than they normally are. Everybody in hazmat suits and masks and eyewear and stuff, having my temperature checked continually as I was walking through the airport. Quite a normal procedure going through border control, passport control. A few additional questions were like why I'm here. I had to prove and give a contact of a local who could verify my reason for being there. And then, yeah, I was tested and put instantly onto a bus.
Now, when you say you were tested and greeted by people in hazmat suits, you were tested right there and then in the airport? And were you the only one tested in the airport?
No, everybody's tested.
Everybody's tested, and they're
Yeah,
just people in the airport. What was the name of the airport?
it was Incheon Airport in Seoul.
Okay. And so everyone getting off a plane is their temperatures taken. There are people throughout the airport in these hazmat suits.
Yeah,
And then anyone and everyone testing positive. How did they know you? They didn't know the results right away, obviously. So they
that's
just
right.
take you
Yeah,
and put you in quarantine.
yeah, that's right. So, I mean, there weren't many people there. I mean, I think when I arrived, mine was the only flight, and there was only maybe between 8 and 12 people on that flight anyway. So, from what I saw, everybody got tested. But yeah, I got tested as soon as I was through border control, and yeah, I didn't get any results. I was just put straight on the bus to go to quarantine.
So when you went to quarantine, did you have to wear anything special? Were you just wearing what you arrived in, or how was that handled?
Yeah, just my normal clothes, the clothes I travelled in. Nothing unusual there. On arrival, I was asked to put a mask on, but that was it.
And anyone else traveling to quarantine with you?
Yeah, there was maybe 5 or 6 or something like that on the bus as well.
No one that you knew?
No, I was
Okay.
traveling alone.
Okay. So you arrive at quarantine. What was it like? Where were you taken? What were the facilities like? What were you told?
Okay, so there was quite a large language barrier, but I arrived at what looked like a hotel that had everything stripped out of it in the lobby, um, and they'd just set up tables. All the guys and the girls behind the tables all had the full hazmat gear on. There was a few forms to fill out, just my name, passport number, pretty straightforward stuff. I was given a room number and told to just go to that room.
So were you told when you were in the room, obviously being in quarantine means you can't leave. So what about food? What about change of clothes? What about activities? What was your immediate adaptation like in terms of routine and facilities?
Yeah, it was a little bit of a shock. The room was basic. Again, it looked like it used to be or was a temporary used hotel. So everything had been stripped out, all the bedding. There was just a simple blanket and a pillow, and then some literature, just sort of explaining that meals would be sent 3 times a day, and I have an obligation to complete this online application from the Korean government about any symptoms, my body temperature, and I also have to record any symptoms on a form outside my door. Um, that was pretty much it. There's no
What
other
about
information.
Okay. And so a couple things quickly. Number one, you said an online application. What language was it in? And did you
Uh,
understand it?
yeah, it's in Korean, but there was a little thing you could transfer it to get some sort of English. It was it's a very simple one, just one word questions, yes and no answers.
Okay. And any role that your employer had to play in all of this since you were there for work?
At this part, not particularly. I mean, but we all knew both the client, my employer, and myself knew that I was going to be in the 14-day quarantine
Okay.
facility. It was
So, okay. The 14 days, when did that end?
that ended on the 19th of April.
And then what happened?
Well, actually, I only spent one night in that facility,
Oh,
because the next morning, I got a phone call. That was the only place I had a phone in the room, but I got a call to say that my COVID test had come back positive, and I needed to pack my belongings immediately and prepare to leave the facility. I was being transferred. That's all I got.
so wait a minute. You're saying that they got the results back in one day?
Yeah,
That's pretty fast. I mean, we're hearing
yeah,
5 days, we're hearing 2 weeks. So one day after you were tested at the airport and brought to quarantine, the results came back, said you were positive, and then you were notified you were being moved somewhere else.
that's right. That's right.
Okay. And where is that somewhere else, and how long have you been there?
Yeah, well, this is again. This I'm in another place again now, but that second place was actually the National Football Centre in a place called Paju-si, northern South Korea. And as it states, it's a national football centre for football training and other sports. And I was taken there and put into a room which is a little bit more basic than the last one. It was fine, clean, pleasant, and just told that I would remain there until I had 2 negative COVID tests.
Okay. And when you were transported there, were you wearing more protective gear than in the first
Yes, it
ride?
was very, very different than the transfer from the airport. This time, I was met at the door by 4 officials of my hotel room. No, yeah, 4 officials had the full gear on, and I was put in an ambulance on my own. I had to sit in the back of an ambulance, and it was about an hour and 20 minutes or so drive, but nobody told me where I was going or anything. I didn't have a clue.
How'd you feel about that? I mean, was that a little frightening?
Um, it was a little unusual. I mean, it was nighttime as well, so I couldn't even check any signs or anything. It was difficult to see out of the ambulance, the dark windows and that. But I figured, I'm in a developed country. South Korea isn't renowned for, kidnappings and such. So I felt safe. I felt safe. It was a little, I didn't know, I didn't have a clue, but I felt safe.
Okay. Now you said you're in a third place. So how long were you in this camp, so to speak?
Yeah. So I was there so I guess it'll be the 6th of April up until 2 days ago.
So
Um,
April 27th?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Originally, my going home date was supposed to be the 25th of April. I was supposed to have been here, done the quarantine, done the job, and travelled home on the 25th. Yeah,
What happened?
25th. I got another positive test. So after the first positive test, they advised me that I would have a second test 7 days after. So I had that test. That came positive. So the process was another 7 days after that. So I've had that one as well. It came back negative, but then they do a secondary test. They want 2 negative tests before they release you. So the second test, the day after, came back positive. So then the clock reset for another 7 days for a retest. I'm kind of losing count when I think it was the 21st or 22nd or something. I'm due another test on the 4th of May.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so when did they decide to move you again?
Yeah, that would have been 2 days ago. And the reason for that, everybody in the facility was moved because the agreement with the company or the whoever owns the building had come to an end.
Okay.
So we were all moved.
Okay. So just did they say anything to you about why one test would have come back positive and one negative? Did they do them differently? Anything that you noticed that would have caused that?
No. What I've been trying to find out, my understanding is that a false negative can happen quite easily if the sample isn't collected correctly. I'm assured that all the people who are collecting these samples are nurses and doctors, but I have no way of knowing.
Right.
So I think that's why the reason they require 2 negatives, because just to sort of mitigate the risk of that sample not being collected
Sure.
properly on the first time. So
Okay.
and I'm told that the chance of a false positive is highly unlikely. The only real chance of that is via cross-contamination somewhere down the line.
Okay. So as of right now, you feel like you have been given good treatment, accurate information, and you're waiting and until everything happens and you're negative so that you can move on. But am I correct in that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really get that much information. All I really get is, if the test is positive, they just simply say, yeah, your next test is 7 days. When I've mentioned at the first time it happened, is there any chance of an earlier test? They just say, no, protocol, 7
Okay.
days, that's it.
So your life right now is confined to a room that you're in and very little communications in English, I would imagine.
That's right,
Uh,
yeah.
so tell me what your life right now is like being there, and luckily not being symptomatic. That's
Yeah,
a really great advantage you have right now, that
yeah.
you're testing positive, but you're not symptomatic. You're not suffering
Yes.
health wise.
No, I'm not suffering health wise at all.
Thank
No,
God.
but life is very very simple. It's comfortable but very simple. Um, Finding things to do. There's no TV. I mean, the last place there was TV, but it was majority was in Korean. Um, yeah, they gave me a jigsaw yesterday.
How many pieces was that puzzle? You're gonna be
it's
there a while.
it's 150.
Oh,
Yeah,
you'll
it's only a
finish.
little thing.
Yeah.
They also gave me, which is a little unusual, they gave me a grow your own lettuce kit. Now, I'm hoping I'm not here for the long haul. I
Grow
don't
your
really want.
own lettuce kit. So
Yes,
you're farming in your room,
yes.
and it takes lettuce a while to grow. So you're right. I hope that's not a sign you're going to be there for too long.
Yeah, but I have some little routines that I've got myself into. So, you know, I'm I'm made aware of my breakfast deliveries by tannoy announcements. Everything's tannoy announcements. When the medical team are coming around to collect the data, when the meals are delivered, anything else, it's all
What kind of
tannoy.
announcement is that?
So they'll announce in the morning that the breakfast box has been delivered.
Okay.
They first do it in Korean, and then they'll do it in English. And now it's not recorded; it's all live tannoy announcements. Sometimes they forget to do the English version, so just by the time of day, I've got to know whether it's the one to put my garbage out, whether it's the one about the medical team, or whether it's lunch or breakfast. If it's something else and they forget to do the English part, I simply don't know what it is. But yeah, I get up, I listen to my announcements, the breakfast announcement. That's really my trigger to be getting up. I just get freshened up in the morning, bring my breakfast in, have it, let it go down for half an hour, do some workout because I can't leave the room. There's no going out of the room.
You're not
I
allowed to
did
go outside and get some air at all?
no, no.
Have
I
you
opened
seen
when I
the
first
outside?
arrived at this. Sorry.
Have you seen the outside? Do you know what the place you're in looks
Yeah,
like?
I've got a window. I've got a window here. Yeah, and it's just looks like a relatively modern building. I think it's a training center for banking people, finance people. That's what I think it is. Yeah, I mean, when I first arrived here, this was a brand new setup. Obviously, the building was here, but it was specifically set up for this reason. And on arrival, I was just searching around for a Wi-Fi signal, like I had in the other two places. And I was stood by my door because I couldn't get a signal inside. So I stood by the door. Yeah, and then I got shouted at by an official to get back in the room. Quite, stern. Not
Yes.
just a hey, can you get back in the room? It was, pretty full on. And then, yeah, then it was announced over the tannoy. They announced my name and told me that I must get back in my room. I
They're
have had
not
a
joking around, that's for sure. They
they're not
mean
joking
business.
around.
Yeah. So anyone
I
who
had a
thinks
warning.
this isn't serious, I mean, in South Korea, they're taking this extremely
Oh
seriously.
yeah, there's
Mhm.
no walking. I mean, there's police. There's a lot of police around out. So when I look out the window, the police patrol the place um, on foot and by car. Um, yeah, it's serious. I've had a warning, and this was because in the second place I was in, the only instructions I had were in Korean, and via the internet, and that I was trying to translate these instructions, and one of them was how we bagged the garbage. And it's not just a case of put it in a bag and tie it and throw it out. There was disinfectant and double bagging and put it in a box, tape it. Anyway, I missed one stage out by accident because I didn't have the English instructions, and they sent me a warning saying that I would be fined the equivalent of $10,000 and would spend 12 months in prison if I
If
didn't comply with what they said, if I didn't comply with the government rules. Um,
and the government
with
rules
this,
include, don't take one step out of your door.
that's right. Yeah, yeah. Um,
And
and luckily, they sent me some in.
this came over the tannoy, the
They sent it
addresses.
me on a. They have like a. It's not WhatsApp, but it's a Korean version called Kakao. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's just like WhatsApp. I got the message through that, and also I got it written, and they sent me some English instructions then. And since then, I've bagged my garbage up correctly. So,
Yeah. I
um,
how do you feel about this whole experience and your health? And obviously, you're trying to get some exercise. You can't get some air. You're away from your family. You're in a country where English is not the first language. Probably the food is a little bit strange as well. How does this whole experience feel to you right now? And what are you most looking forward to?
um, it's surreal. That's what it is. It's very surreal. How I found myself in this situation. I feel fine. I mean, it could be worse. I could be in a foreign country that I've never been to before with this virus and actually be sick.
That's true.
So
That's true. Yeah.
there's the glass is always half full. I'm a very positive type of person, so I just deal with it. I just deal with it. I'm missing home. Yeah, of course. I wouldn't mind a beer. I wouldn't mind a beer.
And I see you did find Wi-Fi because we wouldn't be speaking like this if you didn't
Yeah,
find a good signal.
yeah. They delivered like they call it an egg, a Wi-Fi router. Yeah, so uh, communications are up.
It certainly makes you appreciate the things that you can't have right now, and thinking about a beer and other things that
Mm,
you're looking forward to. What is the
yeah,
calendar looking like now? When is your next test? May 4th, you said, or
yeah, yeah.
May
May the
4th?
4th. So obviously, again, if it's negative, I'll have another test on the 5th. If that's negative, I'm released on the 6th. If any of those two are positive, then the 7-day clock resets and we go on.
Yeah.
I
So
have heard when I was on the bus, there was three of us or so on this bus, quite separate. We were told we were not allowed to talk on the bus during the transfer, but we just had a little whisper between ourselves because we hadn't seen anybody. And this guy was a Ukrainian guy, and he was on day 40
40?
of yeah
Day 40?
yeah yeah. Um, I was there the second longest on, I think it was 23 days at the time or something, 24 days. Um, and then there was another guy. He was in his first week, and he was he was shocked to hear I was on day 23 or 24, and even more shocked when he heard the Ukrainian guy was on day 40. So
I'm
yeah,
shocked. I'm shocked because I don't know how long you can be a carrier. I mean, as a
yeah.
carrier testing positive, how do you know anything about that?
I've got a little bit of information. I'm told that if I get a negative test, it doesn't necessarily mean the virus is completely gone from my system. What it means is what I'm told. So I'm not a doctor, so bear with me. This is the information I've just gleaned. What I'm told is that the virus is diminishing, and is that it's at a level that is no longer transmittable. So I'm told that in various countries at this level, there's this number called the CT number. Now, pardon me if I'm wrong, this is just what I'm told. I don't know what CT stands for. The higher the number, the better. Most countries in the world, I'm told, when you reach a level of 36 or 38, you're deemed as safe, and it's equivalent to a negative test, and you're released. You can go about your business. Here in Korea, they've taken an additional step and upped that level to 44. So there's no release until your level gets to 44. So at the moment, I don't know what mine is, but I've been told that on my next test, I can ask what my number is. And at least if it is positive, I can make an assessment as to whether my situation is improving or not.
I wonder if they're going to send you a bill.
Well, funny you should say that, because on arrival, you have to pay for the first 14 days. So before I could go anywhere, I had to pay this bill. If you didn't pay the bill, you're pretty much sent back.
Oh,
And that was so let me think.
how
That would
much
have
was
been
the bill?
roughly. It was nearly £1,000, so I'm going to guess that's around about $1,200 or $1,300.
So you had to pay for the 14 days of quarantine prepay.
Yeah, yeah.
That's very interesting. So you will have to pay for the rest of this.
I'm not sure now, because at the time, um, the quarantine period was something that I'd chosen. I'd chosen to travel. I'd chosen to go there and work. So
Oh, I
Um,
see. Right. So you had to
I
go into
was, yeah,
quarantine, right?
yes, yes. So that was something I chose to do. So not chose the quarantine, but chose to travel to South Korea,
Right.
which the quarantine is compulsory. Um, but as soon as I left that place, I was suddenly referred to as a patient. So no, nothing has been mentioned about any more payment or anything after that 14 days. I think because I'm now a patient, I think this is how it's going to pan out. I hope.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah, interesting.
I
They
don't
didn't ask
actually know.
you for, did they ask you for any insurance information?
Nope, nothing,
And
nothing.
what's their medical system there? Do they have socialized medicine?
No, I don't even know.
Yeah.
I think so. I'm going to guess that they do, um, but I'm not sure. I'm not
Okay.
sure.
Not knowing that there's a date certain and that this could go
Yes.
on. So
Yeah.
how well equipped do you think you are to get through that and manage through that?
I think I'm good. I think I'm good. My routines are pretty solid. Um, you know, having the internet so I can at least have some sort of communication with the outside world is okay. The not knowing, that's a funny one because I do, in the nature of my job, I do work away, and sometimes there are delays and I have to stay a little longer. But usually it's only a week or 10 days or something like that. It's not usually a long time. With this, it's like it's almost the anticipation of have you passed or failed your driving test. You're just waiting for the instructor to say yes, you passed, or no, you haven't, and you have to wait. And there's that given time, so there's that 7 days. So that's the only thing that you 100% know is if it's positive, you're here for at least another 7, and well, actually released on the ninth day after that. There's a
Right.
possibility of a release on the ninth day. That's
So
it.
this,
That's all you know.
that's it. And so this connection that you have through the internet is probably something that's really keeping you sane right now and keeping you feeling like you have some life to enjoy on a daily basis. I
100%.
Yeah, I really feel for you. It's hard for anyone to understand how it feels to go through that situation, but you sharing it has been very enlightening. I do want to say that I wish you the very, very best. I hope that in another week from now you're heading home.
Yeah.
But I'm going to
Thank
want to check back in with you and see how you're
you.
doing. I wish I
Sure.
could give you
Sure.
that. I wish I could give you that beer right now that you want so bad.
Me too.
But, but more than anything, make sure you follow the rules. Don't get
Hmm.
called out again,
No, no.
and hopefully get some positive results so that you can head home. Is there anything you
Yeah.
want to add, Mark, that we didn't talk about?
No, not really. No, I mean, there's not really much that goes on in my
Mhm.
day to day existence at the moment. Like I say, it's the first couple of days here. I didn't have any internet, and those 2 days were long,
Yeah,
very long. Even just being able to
I'm
scroll
sure.
through Facebook or something, having a little nosy, and half an hour passes, but just sat on the bed doing nothing. That half an hour is like 2 hours.
I'm sure it
You know.
is.
So,
I'm sure it is. Well, obviously, you have great friends and family that care
yeah.
deeply about you and how well you're doing and your experience and getting you home. And so hopefully that'll be soon. And I want to thank you so much for taking the time to share this experience
Yeah, that's
today,
okay.
Mark.
That's
I
fine.
greatly
That's fine.
appreciate it and hope to catch up with you again very soon and see how you're doing in the near
Okay.
future. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you very much. Cheers.